Google changed the world in a different way than most people think. It killed the salespeople, right? Because there's no more bullshit out there, right? If I want the truth, I look it up.
Well, there's bullshit, but it's hidden now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It means I'm not hearing it from somebody's mouth, right?
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
a story. I'm hearing it because I'm reading it, and then I can verify it, and I can look at other sources, and I can pretty much quickly equip whether or not that's reality or not. So in terms of sales, the reality is the reviews are there. Everything is there. So welcome to another 52 Launch podcast. I'm Peter Draculich.
I'm Evan Johnson.
So this is cool. We get to actually do one together today.
Yeah.
This is podcast number
16.
16. Wow. Man, does time fly. Look at, the whole purpose of these podcasts is for us to teach you guys what we do, right? We're doers. We're not educators. And that's kind of like a bit of a downfall maybe, but a reality. I'd rather be the one doing it. I was taught a long time ago, those who can do and those who can't teach.
Yep.
So I don't have time to be in these podcasts, but I know I have to teach everybody what we know so that I'm not repetitive. So appreciate you making this happen. This is really good. And I'm kind of excited about today because, I'm going to look at this of two generations with the millennials in between us, right? I'm a Gen X, you're a Gen Z. You have a lot to live up to because Gen X is definitely the coolest generation ever. Right?
I think I've done pretty good so far.
And we didn't follow anybody's path. We did our own thing. And this is, I think you guys are in that same boat, right? For us, where I had to learn is the first half of my life was supporting baby boomers in the way they did business. So I learned from them. And then I learned from millennials. Yeah. And I supported them in their business or learned how they operate and how the world works. I think Gen Z, your generation, has this just incredible purpose in front of you, and I'll say it that way, where you guys have learned all the things not to do from us. Yeah. And so who knows what the generation is that comes after you guys, but here's what I think we have to do. We have to do some translation. Let's create a glossary today as to the shit that I know and the stuff that you know, because I've said this a long time ago. Look at Google changed the world in a different way than most people think. It killed the salespeople, right? Because there's no more bullshit out there, right? If I want the truth, I look it up.
Well, there's bullshit, but it's hidden now.
Exactly. It means I'm not hearing it from somebody's mouth, right?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is a story. I'm hearing it because I'm reading it, and then I can verify it, and I can look at other sources, and I can pretty much quickly equip whether or not that's reality or not. So in terms of sales, the reality is the reviews are there. Everything is there.
I just want to add on a funny tangent. What you just said there, marketing actually kind of points in the opposite direction right now, is that there is a larger number of people out there that are now researching things more heavily and kind of being more skeptical about things. But due to population growth, the number of people that like just kind of go with all the bullshit and follow whatever the hell they want, it's actually way bigger than it's ever been.
Okay.
Which is completely counterintuitive than what we would expect in an internet era.
Yeah, and so I think everything is cyclical, and in that realm, it's coming back around. And I will say, I totally recognize that because I look at stuff that my kids who are in your demographic, they look at things so naively, and I'm like, how can you fall for that, right? Because you guys haven't seen it before, and it's like a good old shtick that like was a carnival thing that.
My best friend fell for a multi-level marketing scheme recently. And her excuse was she's never seen anything like it before. Yeah. And I saw that and I'm just like, how? But I think that like perfectly encompasses your point there.
Yeah. So look, I think let's focus on marketing and sales because again, I believe, and this is what I've said for a long time ago, and I left. Look, I think every day my father taught me that nothing happens in the world unless it's sold, right? So someone has to sell someone the idea of doing something, or you have to sell yourself the idea that you're going to bring a product to market, or you have to sell someone on helping you invest in bringing a product to market or starting a business. So I agree. Nothing happens in the world until it's sold. That's the way I was taught. The second part is I don't think sales has changed. I still think the principles of like what people have to do, and I've been trained old school, the steps of psychology, what people go through, how you overcome objections. I think really what's changed is where that happens and when that happens. And I think Google taught me the ZMOT, right? The zero moment
Yeah.
of truth. And I really think that is something that eludes my generation, and maybe even the generation before me, which is the boomers. It totally eludes them.
Yeah.
I find ourselves having to educate, and look at, I've spent a lot of time understanding your world as much as I can, but that is a skill set that my generation just doesn't have, unless you were in that computer.
You didn't grow up with it.
No, we didn't grow up with it. It's not a skill that you can learn in our generation, in my generation. I don't believe. I can understand it, I can learn it from you.
Yeah.
But to physically do it, that's beyond. There's a very small percentage of people probably in that Generation X or boomers that could do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the reason why I bring that up is because, again, I think a lot of belief is, I can do Facebook marketing by myself. I can do Amazon by myself. Yep. So let's talk about that, right? Because that's what I thought originally. Like, getting on Amazon's easy. Hence by the laugh. I'm wrong.
Yes, very, very wrong. I think with any profession, you can kind of irk them the wrong way by saying, I could do that easily. I think we've dealt with that for the long time, especially when you look at like tradespeople nowadays. Like a lot of them, people are like, I could do my own plumbing and everything. And then you deal with like a $2,000 fine because you did it wrong. And things like that. I think it's a very similar thing to Facebook ads where people assume that it's as simple as putting a couple of classic advertisements like you would throw up on like a billboard or something like that, and then kind of sending it out to the masses and, okay, people are going to click on this, no problem. When in reality, we're dealing with a place where the average consumer just does not have the attention span that they once did. There's various research that backs this. Like if you have your face up on a billboard, you get far less results than you did, say, even 10 years ago. It's completely ridiculous how the ecosystem has changed, but we've transitioned to this point of, instead of marketing being more of like passive light, be it in magazines or billboards or just kind of passive things like you're waiting in the subway, or even dealing with like salespeople, you actively seek them out before you deal with the salespeople, unless you're dealing with door to door, but that's another thing. Versus now in an era of Instagram and Facebook, you are trying to interrupt someone's kind of projected workflow or what they want to be doing. Which with that, if you interrupt someone doing anything, you better have a really damn good reason for interrupting them. And with that, you need an ad that I would say is about like 4 to 5 times more effective than an ad 20 years ago would be.
100%. Well, not only do you have to, so let's talk about the reason for interrupting.
Yeah.
It's what are the reasons to interrupt me? That means I need to know who you are, what your interests are, and what you like, so that I can interrupt you with something that you are actually going to respond to.
Yeah.
So how much preparedness do you need, or how much preparation does that take to get that right in the beginning?
If you want to succeed well, a few dozen hours of active research and experience. I mean, that process is pretty extensive, and I mean, you can spend hundreds of hours mastering it, like someone at like a huge credit card company or Facebook or something like that would have to completely get it down to a science. If you're someone that's doing it more casually, it might be 5-10 hours of your time just doing a little bit of Googling. And then here at an agency, we really spend tens of hours just kind of combing through the research online. And ultimately, what Facebook now gathers in terms of data, and Instagram gathers, and Pinterest and all this kind of stuff, there's only so much that they can really pick out from your account legally. Facebook used to take more, but recently we've seen a crackdown on all of these. So now
a good crackdown too.
Yes, I will completely agree there.
Yeah.
However, it's made my job harder. That's the reality of it, is that Facebook, there used to be so many more interests and hobbies and all sorts of stuff that you could pinpoint. And they have a giant database. And they're social media. You sign away your rights to your privacy in a certain extent. I know if you just got engaged. I know if your brother-in-law is about to have a birthday party. And
apparently Google knows that you're getting divorced 2 years before you do.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
So like Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms, they're actually pretty scary in terms of the content that they know.
Hold on. We're going to take, is that for us? We're taking a little pause here because it is Thursday, and we have a tradition here at the office where Sarah, lovely Sarah, makes us these amazing concoctions and cocktails. every week we get to pick a different recipe,
Yep.
and let's see. This is a good one. This is a pineapple martini. Oh, good God, that is fantastic. Sarah,
You probably won't be
once
able to go
again,
on with the podcast.
you've outdone yourself. That is fantastic. Well, cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to be. Let's see how well this goes in a few by the end of the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of Facebook, that I'm using Facebook as an example just because I think it's one of the easier ones to understand. It's not as complicated because they tried to make it not complicated, so the average business could use it without an issue. Facebook collects so much stuff, and then there are specialists like me that kind of go in and how do we interpolate this stuff? So if we're trying to do a holiday season, if you just put in Christmas on Facebook, you're not going to do well. But if I know that this is a perfect example for Christmas and a gift that a wife is going to give to her husband or significant other or something like that, then I'll specify on individuals. I'll look at what are interests adjacent to my thing and how can I target individuals. So if we're doing construction, it might be design, carpentry, all of these different subcategories that are sort of around it. Because if I do construction directly, it's not the most effective, surprisingly.
So I'm just going to translate for the older audience.
Yeah.
It's in my segment here, and here's how I explain it to that segment is, if when you go onto Google or when you go onto Facebook, anytime you're in a search platform where you're looking for something, you never find what you're looking for the first time, right? Your first attempt it's your best guess. This is what I'm looking for. When the results pop up, you're like, shit, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. It is your second, third, and fourth searches that you start what I call them the narrowed down searches.
Yep.
That's really where we play, or I think that's where the new world plays, and that's no longer intuition. That is just pure research, accumulation of knowledge, and time put into understanding the behavior of people, but also how they search for things.
Yeah.
Right. There's a million combination of keywords or search parameters that you could put that need to be understood before you go out fishing.
Yeah. And there's actually some really interesting data in why the world has kind of developed in that way in terms of Amazon. Amazon has proved us a point, just like Peter said, is that most people do not buy something on their first go. Even if it's something like a household product, like, if you buy like your toilet paper or something on Amazon, even if we need more toilet paper, the average mom or dad or like busy parent or something like that doesn't actually order the first time they get on the app. They get distracted, they put it down, they come back a few minutes or hours or even the next day, for example. And basically what that has done is it has primed Amazon to know that you are searching for toilet paper or whatever. Then that data is then now what specialists like me can really use to target you. So if I was a toilet paper manufacturer and I knew you just searched toilet paper but you didn't buy anything, I know you're still looking for it. So then I'm going to put my ad in front of you as much as I can.
So I'm just going to say this. So when obviously when you're hearing this and people go, "Holy shit, that scares the crap out of us." Well, let me explain something. Coca-Cola's been doing this since the 50s, right? They just did it at the grocery checkout counter. They knew based on your purchase habits, your customer identification, all these little cards that everyone scans in now at the grocery stores. Every time you swipe a credit card, the grocery stores know everything about you. And when you're purchased, do you think that little thing that spits out all those coupons at CVS is an accident? No. CVS knows, and the manufacturers that sell into CVS
the
know
CVS
exactly
receipts, those are ridiculous.
What coupon to give you based on what you've been buying for the last 30 years at these companies, right? So they know you. So this is not new. It's just, like I said, sales has not changed. It's just moved to a different platform.
The interesting thing, adding on to like a supermarket setting, this is more like 2010s kind of research. But a lot of these big grocery stores, obviously, they're set up in a way to get the most sale.
Right.
Like,
they have to be.
Yeah, I mean, like, why do you walk in and there's immediately sweets in front of you? Most people are going to get some sort of sweet. That's how they're laid out. But that data actually comes from a conglomerate research of their customers.
Right.
So, if, let's say 4 out of every 10 customers walk in and pick up something in the sweet section, right away that sweet section is going to be the first thing that you see when you walk in. And they've been doing this for, I would say, at least 30 years, just tracking this and kind of optimizing the workflow.
So I'll give you this. next time you go into a grocery store, and it's one of the bigger chains here, they're family owned. I don't want to mention them by name, but every grocery store has this room called the tower. If you look at the front, why aren't the offices out in the back? The offices are up top because I will say that every other day or maybe once a week, there is some period of time where there is a team that goes up and watches the tower and just watches human behavior to make sure that the POP displays are in the right spot. Because at the end of the day, their job is not to sell product. Their job is to make sure you grab as much product as you can. It's like guys' grocery games. Like they want you to grab stuff, put it in your cart, check out, and they measure it all.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't work, they get rid of it. Yeah. Their turnover is what we need. So is ours, right? So online, you think Amazon does anything differently? If you have a product that doesn't turn over in the Christmas season, do they charge you more or kick you out? It's the choice you have. But,
and it's also funny that I would say my generation isn't really concerned with our online data that much. But when it comes to like grocery stores and that kind of like what we call like malicious marketing and everything, we're really up in arms about it.
Yeah, I think that is more dangerous. I really do.
Yeah, and then that's the funny thing is I would say even like your generation and back, it's actually the opposite. Is you're concerned about the social media and everything and all that data that's being taken. While the grocery store is like that's been around your entire life, and
I'm just accustomed to it, so I know that they've got the data. But look at the appreciation, and I agree. There's still some privacy issues, which I think they're working out.
Yeah.
But it is a convenience to me when someone knows what I might be interested in, look for, and actually, we had a really cool company in here today, Ergo Kiwi.
Oh, yeah.
They make an amazing X-Acto knife. Go check them out. Ergo Kiwi. Fantastic, ergonomic, the most comfortable knife. It's a very, very smart product. But where would you find that? Unless they know that, like this is it. That's a company that would not be able to exist if there wasn't the search platform where there was intelligence and understanding that, hey, Evan, you might be interested in this little company that no one might ever hear about.
So it's funny that you bring up Ergo Kiwi because I'm someone that uses X-Acto knives a lot just at home. I do a lot of crafting and everything. And Ergo Kiwi is essentially an ergonomic X-Acto knife handle. Not to simplify the brand or anything, but it really is ergonomic. It's so much better than the classic pencil style for using an X-Acto knife. And I actually saw them come up on my search. I was looking for higher end X-Acto knives in different designs, and then Google eventually recommended them to me.
Right.
And then I saw them on our calendar coming in, and I kind of chuckled to myself. So it is really interesting, and it's beneficial. It's sort of this give and take relationship is we have to accept that a certain amount of our information is going to be out there, but also that information is going to be used. That way we get products that we would normally buy. And we get better recommendations. I mean, that's the whole thing about optimizing an algorithm is trying to make sure that you're pointing your products at the people that are going to buy your products.
Yeah, I really don't think it's a Big Brother Orson Welles, that 1984 situation. I mean, look, it could be, and it's out there, but there's just so much data that has to be cluttered through that, it's good. If you're doing something illegal or wrong, you're going to get caught online. I mean, there's teams of people searching for that. But if you're doing it for the right purposes and the protections are in place, I think I think we're fine.
Yeah, and I think it comes to a certain point of that. If I'm being honest, most of my generation, at the very least, if you want our last name, our birthday, any sort of stuff, it's all out there.
Right.
Like I was joking with my friend the other day that has no social media presence that I could find his birthday online, and a couple Google searches, and I found it right away. And to a lot of people, that's really scary that like, oh, my birthday's out there and everything. Maybe I use that as like a password or something like that. But in reality, we kind of have to give it a certain amount of respect, is that we put that information out there. It wasn't something that we willingly or that we put out there and then some Facebook or something stole it and then posted it maliciously.
Right.
Obviously there's data breaches and everything that can happen, but we chose to put that information out there. We chose to put our name and first name and last name on Facebook. We chose to add friends and family on Facebook. We are ultimately giving that data. And it's something that we kind of have to come to accept, that in an online era, if we didn't collect any data, the internet wouldn't function. Like, that is just the end all be all.
Again, to me, it's no different than the old days of being in the white pages, right? The government did it. They'd issue a white pages, and everybody would be able to look up a registry in any city that they went to and see who lived there. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's the new world order, and I get it. If you want to live under a rock and go do it, have at it. But if you want to be in the product sales world, you got to use it as a tool.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of rapid fire a couple of things that I think blend or get misblended. So back in my day, go to traditional advertising. Huge frustration was, not having any data. It was a blind. You throw advertising out there, you spend all the money, and you hope you get results. How does that play in your world?
Yeah, I mean, we almost have the opposite issue, I would say now, is that there is so much data out there, but there's so limited, I would say, expertise in how to use that data. Like, I hate to be that guy, but if you can be a high up marketing analyst, you make huge money. That is just the reality of that job, is that you have a skill set that, in all honesty, kind of died out for a long time. And millennials sort of picked it up, but like Gen Z is really picking it up now.
Well, I'll tell you why, because you hit it earlier on the podcast by saying, it's not easy on Facebook anymore, right?
Yeah.
It died out because, yes, there was a point where it was wide open.
Yep.
And that's not expertise. That's a difference. That just, I could do things that I shouldn't have been doing.
Yep.
Or no one recognized that was a problem. Now that that's shut down, now it does take analytical expertise.
Yeah. So it is an interesting transition, but yeah, I would say we have almost the opposite issue of what you just described. And that's kind of cyclical in nature. In terms of that data itself, there are so many uses, and there's less uses than most people would think.
So it's funny that you said it the way you did, because from my standpoint, any data is better than the way we used to do it.
Exactly.
Okay, because I fucking hated when people would come to me, and they'd go back to my car business days, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, let's buy a billboard," and look at billboards. I'll just go through it. If you want to own 3 or 4 billboards in around the Boston area, you're looking at $20,000 a month.
Yep.
If you want to do a single station radio, I just got, Measure Gear just got quoted. And look at this. I'm not criticizing the rates here, but this is big world money. He got a quote for, I think, 140 spots on the radio for, it was $15,000 a month.
Yeah.
Now, if I take the Ogilvy, Ogilvy is, now I'm really dating myself, but Ogilvy 101 still applies. Reach and frequency is how you get people to attract. People need to hear things 7 days over a 7-day period. Like, they need to see something 7 times over 7 days to actually absorb your message. That is broadcast. Okay. That is, now, in my day, if you wanted to make sure that you kept your advertising account open, you would make sure that one of those billboards was on the ride home to the dealership, so that the owner could see his own ad and feel that he's getting his money worth. That does not translate to online.
Nope.
Online, the number one question I get is like, I'm just not seeing my ads. That is a good fucking thing.
Yeah. This is more towards 52 launch customers or anybody that starts to do ads on Facebook. If you see your ad, there's probably something wrong. And even worse, if you click on that ad, you're costing yourself money. That's the even bigger catcher that I've dealt with, not here at 52, but clients in my past that are like, oh, I saw my ad and I clicked on it and it looks so professional. I'm just like, each one of those ads was 50 cents that you clicked on, and you clicked on 12? So
there's the education point. Please make sure this is a clip.
To
our video editor, go back and explain that if you see your sponsored ad as a client of 52 Launch, do not click it. You're costing yourself money.
Yeah, and if you are a client that is putting a large ad spend, I would say 50 cent was a pretty conservative amount. For a lot of our clients, I would say it's upwards of about $2 to $3.
Right.
So, that 10 clicks or so, you just costed yourself $30, which is probably your ad budget for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't do that. So here's the other one that I will say. What is the cost when you forget to put the parameters on to limit your spend? Let's say you didn't click that one button on any of the platforms that are out there to limit how much you could spend per day. I've run into people that forgot to hit that button, and end up with a $10,000 bill.
Yeah, so I think that I would say most platforms, not all of them, have gotten to a point where they do not run until you give them a daily budget, which is super nice.
Right. Because they've learned.
Yes.
They got a lot of phone calls from a lot of people that said, holy shit, I didn't know.
Yeah, so there used to be a time where you would just put money and it would just keep charging you, and it probably wasn't the most clear on how much it was charging you, and
until you got the statement.
Yeah, you let it run a couple more days than normal. But yeah, ultimately, if you aren't very careful, like the second you hit publish on your ads on Facebook, they're going up for review right away. That review can take a couple of hours, and if you put an extra zero or something in there, almost instantly you're going to see it in your bank account. That ad, instead of using $10 a day, is now using $100 a day,
Right.
and that adds up really, really fast. It's one of those places that you need someone that is very careful and detail oriented, not only to create the ads themselves and kind of put that up there and put the targeting and everything, but also go into there and optimize the budget spend to make sure that it's using the right way. And that's the thing, is that you might have let's say $1,000 monthly ad spend budget, or the money that you spend on an ad. And there might be months that people might tweak that down to say 600, and there might be days that we tweak it up to like 1,400. And overall it equals out to right about $1,000 a month. The reason that we do that is for various reasons. You're trying to get search rankings, you're trying to get ad quality. Maybe you pushed out a new ad and you're trying to focus on it rather than your old ads. There's a bunch of different aspects like that, but you have to be careful with every bit of your ad, even if you pick the wrong conversion type. So conversion type we recommend as like either someone clicked on your ad, someone bought a product, someone read your article. There's a bunch of different conversion types. Even clicking the wrong conversion type could cost you thousands of dollars over the course of an ad spend.
Right.
That's just because Facebook is not, if you want conversions on your website and you optimize it for clicks on your ad, then Facebook doesn't care if you sell a product. So if you're getting clicks on your ad, then you're done. Facebook doesn't want to optimize it further.
So let's stay on that topic a little bit, because I'm going to break it down for the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, right? So in my generation, I was taught by the boomers that nothing matters other than results. And then somewhere along the way, millennials taught me that the reality is you have to understand your process to increase your results.
Yep.
Right? So this is what they would call the funnel in marketing.
Yep.
So understanding the entire scope of what actually happens, I think, is going to be really key to describing and maybe giving a little glossary of those keywords that you just said. So where does the funnel start? Or maybe let's define what the funnel is. The funnel is, it's the entire market, and it's in advertising world, it's called impressions. I don't know, I think that starts in the same area, right? So somewhere out there, people that are watching Facebook or looking at Facebook or on TikTok, every time they scroll, that person gets an impression.
Yep.
Right? So that's where the ads get interjected or get put in, right? So if you're scrolling on Facebook, oh, look at Cindy, what she did. Look at Monica. Look at Fred. That's awesome. Graduated, kids graduate, kids going to college. Every one of those is getting one impression from that individual user.
Within a 7-day period.
Within a 7-day period.
We can edit that. So
there you go. Ogilvy still is relevant.
Yeah,
7 days.
Most people still use a 7-day attribution, which basically means that they're going to be targeted once, give it a little bit of break, target it again, give it a little bit of break, target it again. If you tried to target the same person, your impressions would be spent on like 4 people, just over and over and over and
exactly.
over.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
We need, so again, it's reach and frequency, right? I got to reach the people in 7 days, but then I need frequency of reach as well. So I want to get as many people as I can and reach them as many times as I can in a reasonable period of time. Yeah,
you don't want to annoy them. That's the number one thing.
So again, that's where the ad gets interjected when I'm looking through Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, and I get interrupted. Now, if I get interrupted with something that does not correspond to me, it's an interruption.
Yep.
Right? Why am I seeing this? Okay. Now, but again, if it's something that I like, skiing, boating, family things, in your case, the Ergo Kiwi knife, right? if I know, that's a good impression.
Yep.
And that's really what we're trying to do. What happens after I see an impression that I like what's that next step in the funnel?
So the next step on the funnel is what we call click-through. So this is now someone has been served up your ads, wherever it was, in image or video form or even text form, and the person that saw it has now clicked on it. So that's why it's called click-through, and we call it the click-through rate, which is a percentage of impressions that clicked through on your ad. So you got 10,000, and let's say 10% of those people kind of click through, then you got 1,000 people that clicked on your ad. 1,000 people are your click-through rate. You have a 10% click-through rate. From that, you then
hold on. I'm gonna you can, if you need my pen, you can write down the next one, because I'm just going to pause and just clarify to the Gen X and baby boomers here. Results. If results are everything, that is a result. Okay.
Yeah.
I know in the baby boomer and Gen X world, results means sales. Okay. Prior to a sale, I need to know that my ad is working. This is, again, in my day, was very frustrating, putting ads out in the Auto Trader, into the online world, onto billboards, into radio, into television, on the blind, not knowing until the phone rang and counting all the people that called that I could get a similar click-through rate, right? That's where I know that, hey, how'd you hear about us, right? And the receptionist would right away click off which ad source it came from, and then someone would tally that for me. The problem with that is that's a month old by the time I get it.
Yep.
Right. So the beauty of the online play is that I get this daily. Okay. And over a sense of 7-day, 10-day, 100-day, 50, 5 years, I have a subset of data now that is pretty solid.
Yep.
So click-through is an extremely important result, because it tells me that in the very first stage of my funnel, I am reaching the right people and they're clicking through.
Yes.
Very important to understand that. So I just want to make sure that that part is clear. So after the click-through?
And I would also say click-through, what general marketing practices would say is a good click-through is anywhere from 10 to 1% of your impressions.
I'd reverse that, 1 to 10%.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I always do descending.
yeah. No, it's perfect.
So
that's why you're Gen Z and I'm Gen X.
Yeah.
Right? Look, it's a little different. We are identical.
Yeah.
Just in different skill sets.
Yep.
Like, you have a different world than I did, and my generation's way fucking cooler than yours. Just in the music alone.
Yeah, so once you did a click through, that means that they have clicked on your ad, and then now they have been redirected to wherever you want them to go. So that could be Amazon, that could be your website, that could be your blog, whatever you could think of, you could redirect someone to it. Oftentimes what this is, let's assume it's a website, because that is going to be most people's predicament, is that they're creating ads that redirect to their website, either trying to sell a product or a service.
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine any other reason why you'd spend money in marketing other than to build a brand or an audience.
Yeah, that's the exact reason why you would want to redirect to a blog or something.
So these bloggers who have millions of followers,
they spend some money on ads.
They're spending money on ads, right? Let's. I want to kill this misnomer. I think the day of organic online growth is 10 years old at this point, maybe 5 years old. When did it really become that? When did it get harder? When did it change? Is it
To be transparent, I worked for another entrepreneur in the kind of social media space that is one of the big names that hosts a huge agency now. So I will always preach him. I'm trying not to give out names, be rude or anything, but I ultimately agree with him that organic social media isn't dead.
No.
It's that organic social media is entirely misunderstood now.
Correct.
When people talk about organic social media died 5-10 years ago, what they're often looking at is what were the early stages of YouTube, because a lot of those early YouTubers are now multimillionaires because they've been around from the beginning. And then people don't really think about TikTok. TikTok's been around for 3 years, something like that.
Really exploded pandemic.
Yeah, it's really exploded during the pandemic. But even since then, now there are hundreds upon hundreds of millionaires purely because of TikTok that did purely organic. It's just that organic is no longer purely centered in one place. What organic growth means is that you are chasing across multiple platforms, and also almost always chasing for what's going to be the next platform. The people that signed on for Musical.ly, which was what before TikTok was, they transferred over to TikTok whenever
Right.
the app changed names. And then those are the people that are now the top of the charts and are really we would consider as like modern day celebrities.
I was a Vine star until they shut it down.
I love Vine.
Vine was, I don't know why they killed it, but yeah. So actually, good correction point. I agree with everything you just said there. I think in the Gen X
Yeah.
boomer vocabulary, when I say organic, what I'm talking about is I think my generation thinks that it's easy to become an organic superstar.
Nope.
How much work goes into and what does it require to be an organic sensation? Which by definition, I don't believe is organic.
Yeah. I mean, are you willing to work another 48-hour job a week?
Yeah.
That, if I'm being honest, you can do it, and you can do it over a 5-year span of doing kind of part-time job and eventually get there. I would say most people could actually make a reasonable living off any platform if they fought for it for 5 years on a part-time basis.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking at. So the point is that, let's just go online. Let's start a TikTok. My generation is better off spending money to buy audience.
Yep.
Okay. Unless you are now your generation, because you have the time and the youth and understand the platforms and can understand that, like the minute TikTok came out, the people that were smart started a TikTok account and started creating content and started gaining followers because the gloves are off. Like it's not like Facebook where now there was parameters or you can't just follow people on Instagram. You couldn't build your audience. On TikTok, it's wide open.
Yep.
Right. So I can gain a million followers as long as I don't screw up the algorithm that shuts my account down. So again, your generation would recognize that and say, here's a new platform. I'm jumping on it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to delve in.
Yep. I'm
looking at my generation of all these older celebrities who are just now getting on TikTok.
Exactly.
It's that's how slow we are, guys. Right. Back when I did, when I still do some guest speaking here and there for some industries. And so when I get on stage and I try and get small businesses or medium business to understand the difference between the generations, I just do one simple thing. I ask the crowd of 1,000 people or whatever number of people there is, I ask them to tell me what the best restaurant in that area is. And I can tell instantly who's over 45 and who's under 45.
Yep.
Because the heads either go, where did we eat last night?
Yeah.
It's two Gen X's talking to each other.
Yep.
Or it's millennials who automatically go and give me usually the same answer.
Yeah, I know.
Right? That's the amazing part.
It's almost always the same restaurant.
But it's two different methods. Like my generation just does not look to Google first. Right? I look to your recommendations.
Yep.
So that's the little differences where nothing's changed, but everything's changed. Right? And it's just, this is kind of why I wanted to have you and I on this topic, because I think this is where, it's a good clarification for a lot of our clients who are in your category and my category to understand that there's a blending here of our two differences, but getting it to that same point. And look, I don't say we argue every day, but we certainly have different points of view every day on things and how we get there.
I don't think you can be a business without arguments.
Well, yeah, I don't want to call argument. I just think it's like, hey, this is what
disagreements.
Or differences on how we'd approach it. So, and look, I defer to the Gen Z at this point, because at the end of the day, everything that was painful to me in my business approach in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, the frustration of advertising, I wish someone had given me the empirical data that I needed so I can make decisions on where to spend my marketing dollars better.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching so far. This is just going to be part 1 of 2 parts.
It's a two-parter.
Yeah, it's a longer podcast than normal, so we just want to ask that you subscribe, and follow us on all our other social media platforms.
I'm going to be a little more aggressive. You got to share this fucking podcast with anybody that has an idea or is an inventor or is trying to learn how to bring a product to market and thinks that they need to understand how the social media and advertising works. There is a bundle of money to be made. You just have to understand how this new process works, and that's what this whole podcast is about. So share, follow, do whatever you need, but make sure the people that need it get to see this podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.